Thank you for joining us today. But before we begin, I want to ask you if God is calling you to start your own Finding Hope meeting in your community. I know we have many listeners from across the United States and beyond that do not have a local meeting in their community. So today, I want to challenge you to pray about if God is calling you to start one. You don't have to know all the answers, just need to have a passion to see hope and healing be restored to others who also love someone in the midst of addiction. I'll help you each step of the way. All I need you to do is email me at amy@hopeisalive.net, or you can log on to FindingHope.Today and find the link to facilitate your own meeting. But today I have one of my amazing Finding Hope leaders, Mr. D.L. Redden. How are you doing, D.L.?
I'm doing well, Amy. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, I'm so glad you said yes. We haven't had very many men, and I was like, I heard your story just recently. I was like, we've got to have him back on here. I think I met you a few years ago. So Finding Hope meets twice a month, and it was a fifth week. And so I just said, let's all go to dinner. And your wife had been to Finding Hope and you had not, and you guys showed up. And I was like, great, a new person. So, but before we dig into all of that, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
I've been involved in the organization for a few years now. I don't remember exactly how long it's been. Let's call it a few years. And at first, I wasn't involved. My wife was the one that introduced me to this organization. And when I first came, I really came to support her. It wasn't because I felt like I needed the support. I felt like she needed my support. And then through the process, just coming whenever we did come, it became very clear that actually I do need this too.
Interesting.
Yeah. And this wasn't my first introduction into like the recovery community. I had tried Al-Anon first, and that didn't really jive with me very well. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But the reason that we're even involved in the organization at all has to do with my son, who is doing well. He's still not in what you would call recovery, but his life isn't melting down around him. So I'll call that a win. But being involved in, well, just with the experience that I've had with him, it really uncovered for me that this wasn't the first time I've been impacted by addiction. Yeah. And it's really something that has kind of it's been circling around me maybe my whole life. Okay. I don't remember, I think I found it interesting to recognize that I had an uncle or two that probably struggled with addiction. Then maybe struggles is the wrong word. They just were. Yeah. I don't know, right? And I think addiction comes in a few different packages too, where you have people that they live their lives, but whenever they're drinking, you probably don't want to engage with them because they're just not nice people when that happens, right? So I have a few people in my family who are like that. Yeah. And going through the experience that I've gone through with my son, in my own recovery process through Finding Hope, I was able to, in retrospect, see, oh, okay, well, I was dealing with that with this uncle or this grandpa. Turns out I had a couple of brothers that have struggled with the same stuff. One of which I lost to suicide.
Sorry to hear that.
About 13 years ago, I think. It's okay. I mean, it sucks, but it's okay. God's good. I'm healed. Most of our family is healed, I think, even right from that. I think the point that I have finally come to is I think everybody's impacted by this, even if you don't know it. I didn't know I was impacted by it, even with the loss of my brother. I knew that addiction was involved, but I didn't know it under that label.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like it was kind of around you growing up, it sounds like, all of that. And until you really start to see it like more firsthand with your son, you're saying, it kind of starts opening up your eyes to other things that was going on and around you during that time. So when did you notice your son started struggling?
So I'm from this area. I'm from
Oklahoma.
I'm from Oklahoma originally. Born and raised here. I moved away for about 20 years, moved to St. Louis. And so whenever we moved whenever we moved back to Oklahoma a few years back from St. Louis, that was really whenever we first noticed there was an issue. We noticed that he was not getting up and going to school like he's supposed to. Um, that's probably the first stuff that we really noticed.
Yeah.
And even then we're like, what on earth is happening here? It wasn't obvious to us what was really going on. I would even say we would walk in on him in the middle of the night, passed out, like in the corner with a bottle. And even then, it wasn't incredibly clear to me that this is what we were facing.
And how old was he?
Well, let's see. He would have been 16.
Okay.
I think I'm pretty sure his substance use started before that.
Yeah.
Not a lot before that. Slightly before his 16th birthday is the first that I think that came on. But man, it came on fast and hard, really quick for him. It was like once he started drinking, it was like, I mean, an avalanche downhill in terms of the devastation that it wreaked on his life.
Did you think he was addicted or an alcoholic, or did you think, a lot of times when they're in their teens and stuff, you think it might just be like a phase they're going through? That's what I hear from parents a lot. Oh, I thought it was a phase that they would outgrow. Like, what did you guys think, you and your wife? And then like, how did you realize, oh, maybe there's more going on?
I didn't drink or smoke or anything like that when I was growing up. So, but I was around a lot of people who did. Okay. And so I was kind of looking at it through that lens. We also moved into a neighborhood that was very social, and we didn't realize that the social aspect in our neighborhood really revolved around drinking. And so that was kind of a bummer for us because we don't drink a lot. And so at first I thought it was just normal teenage, you're like, dude, stop. Look, man, if you're going to drink, that's great, but don't do it to the point you can't get up and go to school. You've got to be able to take care of your business. You got to be able to live your life. And he quickly reached the point where his life was unmanageable. I mean, really fast. And so even then, I don't know that I had the word addiction as a defining container for what we were dealing with. We actually had to reach outside of ourselves. I think my wife found it's an organization around here called Parents Helping Parents. And they kind of plugged us into a counselor. And we went and talked to that guy. And he basically said to me, that you're on a long road. It's going to take a year more to get out of this. You need to send him somewhere. And we tried to engage my son in that conversation, but he didn't want to have anything to do with it because he was kind of in the midst of his own stuff. Yeah. And so it just took us a while to figure out that that's what we were facing. And it took somebody from the outside showing that to us because we couldn't see that that's clearly what it was.
Yeah. So this counselor kind of brought it to light to you guys. You got to see it through maybe a different lens. You're angry, all of that. So what did you do with that? Did you end up following his advice? Did you like try to white knuckle it, or what were you? We
followed his advice very quickly. Whenever we finally got some of that advice, like I said, he told us some really harsh truths that hit hard. Like it made me mad. I wanted to jump up and punch the guy in the nose for the things he was telling me. But they weren't wrong. Yeah. They just sucked, right? And sometimes the truth is not fun. Yeah. But we need to hear it from somebody. And so we were able to see it once we heard it. And it was hard. It was very hard. The first step that we really took was taking our son out of our home and sending him to a treatment facility that he didn't want to go to in another state. Yeah. And the panic attack he was dealing with getting put in there, and we were fortunate enough that I don't know what word to use. He had enough capacity to make himself go. He didn't have to get gooned. So, if you're listening to this and your kid is going through this, that term it hits hard with those younger kids, especially the ones who actually got gooned. And that's where somebody comes to your house and they basically paper bag you in the middle of the night and drag you off. And then you wake up somewhere else, and kidnapping, if you will. Yeah. Only it's legit, right? Because we have to get you there, and you're probably not going to go on your own accord. We were blessed that he was able to go on his own accord, walk through the doors on his own 2 feet, with all of us there supporting him. We tried to do it right. I don't know if that made it any better for him or not, but it's just hard. It's just hard.
So as he went, how long was he there for?
90 days, maybe a little over.
So during that time, what were you doing as a dad?
I mowed my yard a lot.
So you have the yard
Yeah.
of the neighborhood.
Oh my Lord. I work from home. My wife and I work from home. And so we were just kind of together with our misery a lot. And there was also, I don't know, it was weird. On one hand, the chaos was removed from our house. So there was a season of peace that we were able to rest in again. And that was madly therapeutic.
Mm-hmm.
But there was also so much discomfort. Because we didn't really get to talk to our son very much while he was. I mean, we did weekly conversations, maybe bi-weekly, even in once a week video call, and I think another phone call. So I wrote him lots of letters, but a lot of self-care. I'm pretty sure that's where you're going with this. I did a lot of self-care. I did a lot of through this recovery process. You can't fix your loved one, right? It's like I joke about. I went to the first Al-Anon meeting, and they were like, they didn't give me anything to help me go fix my kid. They just gave me stuff. Here, you work on you, and man, dirty words galore. I'm not the one with the problem. My life is
I've said that
fine,
many times. Yeah.
Like, if I could just fix this guy, things will be better. And it's kind of the harsh reality of what we deal with here is that you cannot control or fix or do anything to change that. You can only work on yourself. And so through that process, I started going to, I think around that time, maybe whenever we got plugged into.
When he was at treatment?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact timeline, but it's in that ballpark.
Yeah. So when he got out, you said he was there about 90 days. Mm-hmm. He's a minor at this time. Mm-hmm. So if you're out there, I know I talked to other parents that have minors, and it's a different ball game. And so after he got out, I mean, did you think he was personally fixed, or did you know it still had a long road ahead of him?
Oh, I'm pretty sure. I believe there was a long road ahead of him. I'm an eternally optimistic person.
Okay.
So, I believe I serve a big God who can do big things. Mm-hmm. And so anything's possible. And I also enjoy defying the odds. So I really spoke that into my son. Like, you can beat the odds. You don't have to be the statistic that they all think you are.
That's good.
Don't let anybody tell you what you are. You search after God and you become who you think he should be, or who he thinks you are. Now, how much of that resonated with him, I don't know. But he came out a new man. He was so polite and respectful and thankful and grateful. And that lasted, I don't know, a week. And then he eventually started, it took a while. It took a while, maybe another 6 months before that fell apart, something like that. And then we ended up doing another round of treatment. And then that fell apart when he got out of that. But then I'm going to say on his own, without treatment or anything, he's managed to get his life wrangled. It's right. It's still a Bronco. He's still, I mean,
he's still young.
He's still young too. Yeah. There's a lot of maturity, right? So the thing with adolescence, right? So he was 15, 16. Well, his brain basically is stuck there.
Yeah.
Right. So like, I'm sure you've talked about that on this podcast some, but his brain's basically stuck at that age where he started consuming. And so there's a lot of maturity that has to happen. And in our recovery, we talk a lot about enabling and codependence and those boundaries, those lines, creating boundaries. Those are really difficult to set with a minor because this person is in your care. They are under your charge.
You have to feed them.
You have to feed them. You have to take care of them. And so the same rules that somebody might apply to a spouse or a parent or a sibling who's an adult, those rules, it's hard for those rules to apply the same. And so we did spend a season where we kicked him out of our house. It was not long, a couple of weeks, I think. It's not something I'm prepared to do right now, right? And so I just have to be at peace with that's okay. Even though it may not fit quite the mold of like, here's the boundaries that the community says you should set.
Well, boundaries on you anyways.
It is, right?
Like it's your own
thing. Yeah. The way I describe it to whenever I'm teaching that particular lesson or something around it is that you're here and the perfect scenario is here. And if you jump from here to there, it would break your spirit. You can't handle that jump from where you're at. And so there's this progression of maybe toughening or recognizing that my way, this other thing isn't quite going to work, till you eventually recognize that somewhere in this upper end of more what the the general rule of boundary setting and enabling, like where you cut people out, like really cut them out. You have to work your way up there, I think.
Yeah.
I think, especially with children.
So you kind of touched on it just a second ago about how it looks different with a minor, with the, not enabling, the codependency and the boundaries. And I know it's a lot that you guys have worked on, and you've talked openly about the struggles with it in Finding Hope. Like, this is hard for us because he is a minor and all of that. What have you learned? Like, how have you navigated that to, still have some boundaries in place that you can, or what is enabling with a minor? What's not? Like, what have you guys learned as someone's, I met someone at the retreat that has two children struggling right now that are minors. And so what would you say, or how would you encourage that parent?
That's a good question. It's deep.
It is. Welcome to Finding Hope podcast.
Exactly. There's a few different angles that I think I would have to take to answer that question completely. The first of which is enabling. Let's start there.
Okay.
I've really struggled with that one. And what I think kind of recently has helped me settle in on where to land there, it's doing something for somebody that they should be able to do on their own. And I might even say maybe not should, but can do on their own. Okay. Or that they can do on their own. We talked about my son kind of having this, he's 20 now, right?
Okay.
But there are still things he comes to me with saying, Dad, can you help me with this? That if I think about me at 20, I'm like, bro, really? Why do I have to help you with that? But when I think about where he's at, right? He's maybe at that, this is maybe a normal 17-year-old thing to come. And I'm afraid he'll watch this and like, son, I love you. But, there are some things that I still have to help you with that, anyway. Yeah. And so I have to adjust my own expectation of meeting him where he is. This is something that might be normal for him to he needs my guidance with that thing. He needs my help with that thing. Now, I
like that you said guidance too.
Yes.
I think that's key.
It is key. It is key. All right. So that's enabling, right? So drawing that distinction between I'm still doing the dude's laundry when they can do that themselves. And if they want to wear dirty clothes, then let them wear dirty clothes.
Yeah.
All right. Kind of leads me into the next thing of choosing your battle. So one of the battles that I really struggled with when he was more like 16 had to do with buying him a car or paying for the car he wanted. There was a lot of entitlement coming from him. And I really struggled with this whole, like, what do I do? Because at the time that he's 16, that's kind of a normal thing to be dealing with.
My daughter's going to be 16 in a year. So yeah, we're already thinking that way.
But if you recognize the battle that you're actually fighting, that was a ridiculous thing for me to spend much energy on. The answer probably should have been a hard no. Or a hard yes, whatever. It doesn't really matter. That's the other beautiful thing about this is you can kind of make whatever choice you want. And whenever I've pressed some people to tell me what to do, their answer was, do whatever you want, which isn't helpful in that moment because you're trying to do the right thing. And I think it is important to have the grace and understanding with yourself to do the thing that is right for you right now, because you have to live with whatever you decide. So if that means go ahead and buying the guy a car or kid a car, then do it. And if that means, no, I am not comfortable doing that, then don't. Because mostly boundaries aren't about rules for the other person. Not even mostly. Boundaries are not about rules for the other person.
Good job.
They are about fences, protection for yourself. And so it's, what am I comfortable doing? What am I uncomfortable doing? Stay within that comfort zone. And it doesn't matter if my comfort zone and your comfort zone aren't the same, right? Because in this organization, you're not going to come at me and say, hey man, you did that wrong. Yeah. You would like gently guide me in a more proper direction. But
what do you think? You turn around with the question. What do you think?
What do you think? Yeah, exactly. So I think that just cut yourself some slack, because what you're dealing with, other people are dealing with it too. You're not alone, right?
Yeah.
But it's your first time probably through it, and so recognize which battle you're in as soon as you can. You won't know it at first.
Yeah.
But don't sweat it. Just do the things the best you know to do. Love that person, and find out the boundaries you need to set for yourself.
Okay. So my next question is, okay, you're a dad at Finding Hope. It's kind of not as many dads come.
No, fam.
What would you say to another dad to encourage them? You said you first started coming to Finding Hope because you're there to support your wife. And I see that a lot. But then I also see the shift like you had too, like, oh, actually I needed this for myself too. So if there's another dad listening or a mom listening that's going to give it to her husband to listen to, like, what would you say to that dad if they were sitting right here, or your old self?
Men are tasked in life with being strong, independent leaders. We have to have answers when none exist. And when I say have to, we're expected to have answers when none exist. And I think it is important for men to recognize their limits and when they've run to the end of themselves. You know, God calls us to rely on him. There's this weird saying in Christianity that I don't agree with, that God will never give you more than you can handle. I think that's an utter falsehood, because if you didn't get more than you can handle, you will never fall on your knees to him. So another challenge that men have is setting their pride aside and submitting to God, right? And I think most good Christian men believe they're submitting their lives to God and submitting themselves to God. But it's the same principle at work of being able to submit yourself to some other process. And we will run ourselves ragged trying to do it on our own. And especially in this instance, especially with a child, right? I'm a dad coming into this organization, man, you're gonna be beating yourself up. This is my fault. If I'd have raised him better, we wouldn't be doing this. If it's somebody's fault, it's mine. It isn't my wife's fault. I don't know if I should blame it on my child. He's still growing, right? He didn't know better either. I'm supposed to have done a better job, and this all fell apart because of me. It is hard to overcome that belief and adopt a new one that says, I didn't cause this. I did my best. I ran the good race, fought the good fight, and yet this was the curveball that was thrown at my child's life. I don't know how many more words to use to say you do need the support. You do. No matter how strong you think you are, no matter how much you think you've gotten it, you need the support. Your child needs you to get that support. Your spouse needs you to get that support, because without that support, without going through that healing of yourself, your own spirit, your own soul, you will be ineffective in your role as a man, as a father, as a husband, as a leader at work. You know, if imploring to the side of you that says, I'm here to serve and lead and guide my family isn't enough, then do it for the people you work with, right? Your brothers in arms at work. You can be ineffective or not as effective there because you're harboring all this extra resentment, bitterness.
It plays
grief.
a role in all of it. Your family, your work life, your friendships, everything, all of it.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think the challenge that every man should come into this with is, I want to be the best me that I can be. How do I do that? And that isn't on your own.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's huge. And I hope someone can be like, okay, I can say yes now.
Right. Because it isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of ultimate strength to say, yes, I need this help.
Yeah. And I say that all the time. Actually, in my training, I tell you guys, like, asking for help is a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. Absolutely. So as we wrap this up, DL, as I was listening to you, I like to end just like my lessons, with a challenge, right? Like, how are we going to apply this? And first of all, I think the first thing you said that really spoke is give yourself grace in all of this. Well, no matter where you are on this, whether your loved one's in recovery or not, or you're seeking, or you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, why did I do that? Like, give yourself grace. This is a journey. I like that you said fall on your knees. Like, literally, you can fall on your knees and give this to God, and give yourself to God. Ask him to give you the strength to get through it. I think so many times, yes, we need to be praying for our loved ones and all that, but we need to be praying for ourselves to get through it too, for that strength and that courage to do the hard things through it all. And I put your pride to the side. I mean, there's actually a chapter in our Finding Hope book that talks about pride, and putting that pride to the side. for your child, for your spouse, because, we do see marriages through this. I'm sure, I can't speak for you, but I know marriages through addiction, when you have a child, there's a strain on that,
Huge strain.
mom's on this side, dad's on this side. Mom, oh, I can go to mom. I know she'll let me do this, but this time I'm going to go to dad. So there's that big strain that, and that's why I love seeing that you and your wife are both at Finding Hope too.
Mm-hmm.
Like yes, you came for her at first, but you've learned the importance of, I need to be here. We can go home and discuss this in the car on the way home. What did I take away? What did you, where do we need to be together as a family, as a spouse,
Right.
as a couple? And so those are my challenges right now, is to give yourself grace, fall on your knees, and to put your pride to the side. Any last words you want to leave our listeners with?
Everything I have to say will turn into another 30-minute conversation.
Well, we might just have to have you back then, right?
That'd be great. I'd love
it. But thank you. And thank you for saying yes to leading the group here in Oklahoma City, and just for your transparency today, and for, your boldness and transparency, even in the groups. Like, you're not afraid to speak up. And I think that's tremendous for the people that are at the meetings, as well as for yourself. So thank you. And so thank you, everybody else, for joining us today. And you can learn more about Finding Hope and get plugged into one of these meetings at FindingHope.Today. But before you leave, make sure you give us a 5-star review, share this on social media, and subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss our next hope-filled episode. And don't forget to reach out if God is calling you to start a meeting just like DL. Thanks for joining me again, Amy LaRue, and our special guest, DL, on this episode of Finding Hope. And remember, you are not alone. It's not your fault. There is hope.